Okay, so we are live. Excellent. Any questions from last week? I know we didn't do a lot. We just went over some basics. We started going over stuff. Yes. In Blackboard, it wouldn't post it? Oh. Yeah, I got your email about that. I was confused. I thought you said, because you said Blackboard was down, I thought maybe you were having issues. Let's see. So Unit 1, let me go back here. Maybe I didn't enable it. So if you go to Apply, and right here? Okay, yeah, it should be available. Okay, yeah, if you have problems, if you ever have problems with Blackboard or anything, just tell me. It does hiccup from time to time if you haven't noticed. But yeah, it should be fine. No, you're fine. We're good. I gave you guys until the 20th. Come up with an idea. We just started talking about last week. I wanted you to think about stuff. So again, just so we can talk about it since we're talking about that. So just, yeah, getting an idea for a project. Again, a lot of students will sometimes take something they work on in other classes. If you're taking like Web 1 or some other classes, that's fine. And you're like, you want to build on that, I have no problem with that. You can definitely do that. It's kind of, we can talk about different areas. Now, just so you know, along the ways to go with units, you'll see there's things in each unit under the apply that kind of, I'm asking you to think about putting that in your project. So I'm going to give you hints and suggestions along the whole way, okay, throughout the weeks, and you'll see it. So if you go through, because everything is available, should be available for you. So like I'll go to Unit 2 here. I'll show you just so you understand what I'm talking about. I'll go to Unit 2. I'm pretty sure there's something in there. Right here. So it says plan and add a feature to one of the web pages of your personal site that has at least one function to perform a mathematical calculation. Things like that. Test a page. So each week I'm going to say, hey, why don't you try and put this in on your project, things like that. It might be a little difficult depending on the theme of what you've got going on. I'll have students who literally have one theme going on, and just to like throw a calculator on there, they'll just like throw a random calculator on there that has absolutely nothing to do with their website. I'm not against that, just for you to get, but and part of it is because I want to make sure you understand how to use the functions and stuff. So I'm not against that. If you can fit it in, great. If it just doesn't happen and you have to add a piece here or there that doesn't quite go with what you're doing, okay, that's fine. I don't want it to feel forced. But the idea, so let's see, that's Unit 2. It's like a mathematical calculation. What's 3? Talks about decisions. And we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff will just happen anyway when you write your code. Maybe you'll make certain like if-then statements, things like that, decisions about how to do stuff. So again, I'm just going to try and give you hints along the way. Decisions. Some of it should be no problem, and some of it you might be like, well, I don't know how to get this in there. Well, if we're really stuck, we can figure it out. This one, I didn't even put anything in there. For Unit 4, just the apply, yeah, just the project, so I didn't even ask you. And again, I don't expect you to put everything with the kitchen sink in there, including the kitchen sink. It's just an idea, it's just a way to get you to think about what's going on and different pieces of JavaScript that you can do, okay? So if you get stuck or anything like that, or it doesn't make sense, just let me know. Say, hey, I'm going on that path. I've had students do that. I guess I had one student here, this really nice camping site, for all these different campsites in the country that they could go to. It was all just personal, it was stuff that was personal she did, and then she just wanted to add to that. The issue she ran into was she tried to overcomplicate it. She did a little bit more than she's like really is like, I'm gonna do this and this and this and this. And at the end of it, we were like, all right, let's get rid of all of this. Again, keep it simple. I have no problem with you being ambitious. That's awesome. The more you want to do, that's cool. I get it. But you also, you don't have a lot of time, and you're all have told me you're all taking at least 3 or 4 other classes at the same time. So plus you have other stuff going on outside of life. I assume you have a life, maybe you don't. I don't know. So don't bite off more than you can chew. That's all I'm saying. Just kind of make it, make it realistic. But yeah, if you have questions, if you're stuck on the topic, let me know that too. Like I said, because we have stuff you can do. The book has different ideas, and again, if you're like, I have really no clue, then we'll figure something out. Not a problem. All right, because I know a lot of students get stuck on that too. They're like, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. I'm like, okay. So we can figure that out as well. All right. Good. Good. All right. Okay. So last week we started off, we just kind of went over everything. Like I said, all of you were so nice. You did the syllabus. I appreciate it. Got that done. Well, I also have students who literally will not get it. Some instructors don't allow you to get access to any of the course information until you do the syllabus. I'm not one of those, and so literally some students will wait until like the last week of the semester and they're like, oh yeah, I got to do that, don't I? So just nice to get it out of the way. As I was telling you, so Unit 1, we're going to kind of jump into that full force. Talking about JavaScript. We talked about a little bit last week. We got into some of it last week. I don't know if you remember. It's probably a whirlwind of a week for you. We wrote some simple code. I don't even know if you remember this. Created some HTML. Very basic HTML structure. And started talking about JavaScript. I noticed a couple of you already submitted assignments, so you're ahead, which is great. I'm going to kind of keep this at a little bit slower pace just for now to make sure everybody's on the same page. And then, like I said, if we, depending on how we do, we can speed things up, we can slow things down, we can add more. So in this case, we started doing some stuff with some code. We got some HTML. We have our typical, everything here is HTML. I did some comments. And remember, you got the different comments too. Things to remember about that. I mess those up all the time. You know, you're working quick. You're like, okay, I'm in JavaScript. Oh, wait, I'm in HTML. I'm doing this. With different languages. You work with Java, things like that, C, C#. They all have their different syntax. And that's really all it ends up boiling down to. We have our HTML, our body, and then what we do, we throw our script in here, right? And we use the script tags, and that's the key for this. You have a script tag, and it's a script tag that allows you to run the JavaScript, right? And it gives you that power to do that. And it allows you, the nice thing about JavaScript we talked about is things in HTML that you can do, especially HTML5 that you can do that you couldn't do years ago with the older version. But JavaScript just allows you to do so much other things like validation, things like that you just couldn't do as efficiently or nice before. There's so much of JavaScript that really has opened up the programming world from the web side to doing so much more flexibility, things like that. So we just we created a little script here, a little comment again. Also, just so you know, I can do a different comment like this too. Another comment. With stars. The one thing about this one is I can do multi-line, right? I can do that. A lot of programmers will do that if they have a lot of lines of code, and they'll do that. And I'll talk a lot more about that. It's just kind of my style. And then you've got the document dot right here. So if you have single lines of code, that / sometimes it's nice, it's quick, it's easy. You know, I can just go down here and I can just do / boom, it's commented out. And that's great. But when you've got, like, say you've got a whole block of code, I'll just make a bunch of copies of this. Oops. So say you've got something like that. I know it kind of doesn't make sense because it's just the same word, but you know, instead of sitting there and doing / in front of each of these, and Notepad has ways also you can do a block of code. A lot of editors have that, but you can also just go here and you can just do this / to the head. Now notice as soon as I do that, you'll notice that everything below it turns a different color. In this case, it turns green to let you know, hey, you just did something. So a lot of developers sometimes forget too. They're like, we'll do that, they get distracted, and then they forget that half their code is commented out. Well, I want my program run. Well, because you commented out half your code, and then / as soon as I close it, I get my colors back there. So just this block. But it's a nice way to do that. My recommendation, this is just from a programming perspective. I used to work for a place that we used to have at least 2 versions of our code in there with a date. So I would put something like this in there, and I would say not needed, whatever. I'd put the date 1/14, and I'd even put my initials. A couple reasons for that. And the not needed is usually more of a verbose description, just so you're aware. It's just something that I would put in there. Why? Because 6 months down the road, I'll be like, well, why did I comment this out? Right? So at least I have something in there. I have an idea. And then the date is nice because I know when it was, and I probably would get even more detailed. I would just be and just do. Is this annoying? It can be. Will you ever need it again? Possibly. I've done it many times. And the reason I put my initials in there, very simply, is that I know that I did it, and if I ever need to, I can do a quick search on the program and I can find out where I made changes. Hey, we had some functionality in this program that we thought we used to use, but now it's not working. Chris, I thought you made a change to that program. What happened? Oh, I don't remember. Let me go check. And then I start searching programs. And the nice thing about this is I don't have to go into each program. I can just do a search even outside of files, right? And you can search for it. You can find what's going on. No different than going on Windows, right? And searching for something. I don't know, test, whatever. It'll pull up files. It'll pull up whatever. That's the idea behind it. Yeah, I close all tabs. So you want to make it as easy as possible for you because, again, when you're working with small programs, this is no big deal, right? It's really simple. But a lot of times, in most places, you're going to have hundreds and thousands of lines of code. And you're not going to start going through all that. And that's the way about doing this. Again, think about it. If I just did this, I'll hit enter a bunch of times, right? So now it's getting bigger, right? Again, this is just kind of a simple example. But I can't see it. I have no idea where it is, right? Just Control F, go find my initials, CAV, find next. Oh, is that what I wanted? It looks like what I wanted. Let me see. And then again, I can search for that. It's nice. Different places that you may work at may have different standards for how they do this stuff. Like I said, one of the places I worked at, one of the first places I worked at, they required us to have at least 2 revisions of changes in our code so that if we made a mistake, go back. Now, there's something you guys ever hear of source control? Okay. So those of you who don't know, source control is a way, it's a repository, it's just a library, a place where you store your source code. What does that mean? It means when I'm working in my code, you probably heard this term. You ever hear the term before, like something's an alpha, it's a beta. Okay, this is out just for production. Okay, those are common programming lingo. And the idea is you're working in something as a developer, most likely it's just what's called an alpha. You're just starting, you're doing stuff. When you get stuff going to a certain point, you're like, okay, we're going to do some beta testing. And by beta testing, it means your code is pretty good, it's fairly stable, and you want to have some customers or users test it and play with it and try out what you're doing to see if what you're doing is working the way you think it's supposed to do, right? But before you do that, you want to make sure you have a copy of all those copies. You're saving locally to your hard drive, hopefully, or a network, right? You're backing this up to the network. But you also use something called source control. There's many of them out there where you're uploading your code, like online. So no different than saving your stuff to the network or things like that, or up online into the cloud. Now you can do the cloud, but it really would go to a server, and then there it has your code, and it's beautiful. So what happens if your computer blows up? It's not a problem, right? Just like when you save your photos and everything to the cloud, it's going on a server, so if something happens, you can always get your source code back. But that's not only the case. The case is also if you make an error, or we've done this before, when I was working on a project, I worked for a small company, a software company, and we did library software. Very exciting. Very exciting. I wrote some code that so the main function of a library is to do what? You check out books, you get books, right? People come in, they want to check out books, things like that, right? Well, I had some code in this one module, it's called the circulation module, where you circulate the books, where it no longer allowed patrons to check out books. Minor bug, right? I like to say that. Minor bug. All right. So I checked my code, I did something, and for some reason, whatever I did, I screwed something up. It went out, all of a sudden we started getting calls and help desk. Yeah, we got customers who can't check the books out. I get another call. Hey, yeah, I know we got customers. All right, who worked on this? They go, they check out the module. It's like, oh, that was me. So also there's a way that if you don't want to own up to what you did, you can own it electronically. They can find it. So to be honest with you, if you ever run into a situation like that, it's just quicker and easier to say, yeah, I think that was me. I was in there. I did it. They can find it anyway. So what they were able to do, and we did what's called a rollback. And all they did was we went back to a previous version. We used source control because that was stored, and then we went back to a previous version of what was saved, and we rolled it back. So we got the code out. So like say this was commented out before, then they said, okay, no, this is good. We're going to go back to what it should have been like this. But the software automatically does it for you. And it did it across the board. We rebuilt it and we shipped it out to the customers, and it was something that you could do immediately. Versus going and trying to find out the exact bug. Now, I think I knew what it was, but I wasn't 100% sure. But by the time, as a developer, you get experience with this, potentially, it takes time to go in there, find out what you think the problem is, potentially fix it, test it, and then roll it out, right? There's a chance if I do it too quickly, and you probably may those you may have encountered this before, you may create another bug, or you may not account for all the different variations, and you may cause a worse problem. I fixed it, it's all done. Let's roll it out, boom, it's out there. Now we can't do this, or now, something else may happen, right? So there's stuff like that. So anyway, so source control software. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them out. The PVCS is one of them. Source control. I used to use a product called Visual Source Safe, which is Microsoft, which is no longer around. There's a whole bunch. GitHub is a popular one. GitHub is actually a repository. It's actually really cool too. I'll talk about in a couple of minutes for a variety of reasons. Software like PVCS, CVS, where you're just doing what's called checking in and checking out software. So what happens is you've got this template of software that's in there, this version. So this alpha version, this beta version software, which is good. Okay, you don't want to mess with it. And you're like, okay, I want to make some changes to this program. So I have some code. I have to go and write this line in here because it's a super special line that they want in there, right? Okay, don't laugh too hard, I know. Anyway, so it's one line. So what you got to do is I'd have to go into and find the file mine's called test.html. I'd find it, I'd check it out. It's now under me. Only I can write to it. Other people can see the file, but it's read only. They can't write to it. And so right there, the advantage is that multiple people are not making changes at the same time to the same file. And then you're not overwriting each other, right? So now I've got access to this file, and only I can control it. I can write to it. When I'm done, I will then check it in with my code. And because I only have that one file checked out, I'm also making sure that all the other code that matches up and works still with the code that I just made changes with, right? Now, someone else may say, Javier may say, hey, Chris, I need that file. I got to do something. All right, I'm almost done. Let me finish it. I'll build it. I'll test it, and I'll check it in, and you can have it. All right. If my changes are going to take too long, I'm like, you know what? I can't get it done for you by tomorrow. He's like, and Javier's like, Chris, man, I need this. I got to get this in. My boss is on me. I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what. I can undo my checkout. I can back out of it. You can have it. You can do your thing, and then I can play with it and really make sure. And then when you're done, you can check yours back in, and I can go from there. So there's all kinds of ways, but it's a control mechanism to do this stuff. It's very important. All companies do this. Every company does. Companies like Google's, the Apple's, the Microsofts, their thing is they do this they do it probably every couple of hours, even every hour or something, which is scary. We used to do ours. We check in probably on a weekly basis, every couple of days, and then we would do builds, make sure the code that you're checking is good. I've had situations where I get calls at 2 in the morning because my code didn't build. Chris, what'd you do? I didn't do anything. Code's not building. Fix it. What? It's 2 in the morning. Fix it. Okay. Let me tell you, it makes you do your due diligence properly. That whatever you check in is going to work, because you do not want to call at 2 or 3 in the morning that something you put in is not working. So you get really good at testing and beating on it and trying. You cannot test every variation, but just again, a word of thought. That's the thing. So these are all just different types of source control. Git. If you guys heard of GitHub? Okay, I know some places, some classes will have you actually use GitHub. That's how you do your software. They'll put it all up on GitHub. You get it and bring it down. So there's two things. There's GitHub and there's Git. Git is the mechanism for getting the software and the different versions. And GitHub is actually a repository. I always recommend to students that if they write source code and things like that. We talked about the reverse job fair coming up next month, potentially. Not potentially, it is coming up next month. But something you can do if you've got code from other classes that you've done is you can put it in GitHub and you can make it available. So then an employer can actually go in there. A, they can see your source code, they can see what you wrote, they can download it. C, they can see the fact that, hey, this person knows how to use GitHub and they use it, and that's a huge thing. That's another tool, because they know if you know how to use something like that, and we can do that in class too. It's not really part of this class, but I can show you some of that. It's like another tool, because once you know how to use that, you can pretty much use almost any source control software. They're all very similar, and that's just another tool, another thing you can put on your resume. It was like, yeah, I know how to use this, right? Just like languages. Hey, I can code in PHP, I can code in Java, I can do this. You know, you may not know everything, but you know enough to be dangerous. So, but I'd be happy to show you too. But this is a very popular one. And again, a lot of employers like to see that also that if you put stuff out there, a lot of programmers are really cool about it. They put code out there, like full systems, full applications. They'll put games out there. They'll put all kinds of stuff. I highly recommend just searching. Anytime you search for it, you can download the whole thing. All I have to say is be careful, because sometimes you never know what you may download. Those of you who've downloaded stuff in the past. But most people are pretty cool about it. They don't intentionally put viruses or anything like that. And there's just I've downloaded plenty of stuff from there, and it's been cool. A lot of cool projects, full project management software, calendar systems, tracking systems. It's amazing what people will do. They'll do a project like you for school or work or something like that, and they're like, I like this, and they'll put it out there. But that's one more thing, because then an employer can see that and say, wow, this person really did a lot. That's the big thing. You can go into an interview and you can talk about what you want to. 6 days from that. If I show you my code, it's a different story, right? I can sit here and I can expound all this stuff to you about blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm a brilliant programmer, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, show me your code. Let me see your code. Let me see your project. Let me see something you've done. Portfolio. And this is what we're talking about with the reverse job fair. Say what you want to do is, if you've got code, or if you don't have anything like that, you've got enough, that's okay. You start off, even if you're starting off, we can set up a GitHub account or something like that. It doesn't have to be Git. It could be anything. And kind of, it shows you, again, it's a tool that you're using, and you can show, this is my source code, this is what it is. And if they're interested in you, trust me, they will go. I've interviewed at places, I've submitted my resume. They don't even talk to you anymore. They go to LinkedIn. They go to all these places to find out what you've done, where you're doing, who you are. It's amazing how much due diligence people do before they even talk to you now. They know all kinds of things about you before they even pick up the phone and call you. I had to contact an attorney for something, and she did all kinds of research on me to find out, hey, am I real? Who am I? What am I about? Is this, because people say all kinds of stuff, right? So the internet's amazing. I digress. Anyway, like I said, if you want to, we can. So here's GitHub, and it's free. It's free. It's open source. It's awesome. I mean, like I said, it gets very complicated with some of this, where you can go out and you can branch and you can put stuff in and you can do branching. So like, if working in programs, like all of us could be in the same application doing different parts of it, and then what it can do is it can also do what's called merging of files. So Javier and I we're working in a program and we keep doing stuff, and it's like, I need to be in there, he needs to be in there. What it can do is we can both be in there sometimes if you set it up, and we can be in there, and then when we're done, we can put our stuff together and it'll merge it. It's that smart. It will tell you line by line any changes that are made, which is really cool. So if you're ever looking for issues, things like that. But again, I know this is not a course on that, but this is a programming course, and that's something that you should know about. So source control is very key. Anyway. No, I won't test you on that. I just want you to be aware of that. Some of the things I wanted to bring up. So, yeah, so again, we have this code that we did. I'm going to get rid of all this. And you guys are comfortable. Again, a lot of this is just being comfortable with the IDE that you're using. Again, and I'm just using this. I'm actually going to comment this out again, just because I don't need 15 million document write statements. Another reason, again, this is a coding class, but I keep talking. I like to comment stuff out for the very reason, just even if it's not my company's policy, is I'm not always sure I want to get rid of something. And if I'm not sure or whatever, I might just comment it out, because true enough, a week, 2 weeks, 3 months later, I might come back and say, you know what, I didn't really think I wanted to do that, and I want to go back. Rather than delete this whole section of code and say, yeah, I don't need it, things change. Or I've had many situations where a manager would come to me in one instance to say, we need to get rid of that functionality, no more, we don't want it anymore. Instead of going in and just deleting it, you comment it out, put a date, and I'll put my name in there and the reason why my manager told me to blah, blah, blah. You know what? Chris, remember when I came to you 3 months ago and I said it was urgency and you had to get this out of there? Yeah, you need to put it back. What? You need to put it back. I was wrong. Or no, I was wrong, or the customer wants it or something, whatever. right? So you gotta put it back. So what do you do? Well, it's so easy. You just uncomment it, right? So that's the beauty of it. So there's things like that. So again, that's just basic programming information, and hopefully you get that with any class with programming. So again, with JavaScript, I guess you got the script, you got your script tags, and it allows me to embed anything I want in here. And I can do multiples too. I told we were talking about that. So I can do another script tag if I want to too, right? You can do that. Now, you probably wouldn't necessarily do it back to back like that, but you can what's called you break stuff up the way you want. But I can do this, and I can do another set of, I can just do another set of code right there like that. So I've got script and script. I'm going to just delete this just for now. That just so I have it. So I have a script, and then I can do HTML in between there, right? Here is more HTML, right? And then if I run this, like that, right? So I've got my test body, which is HTML code. I've got my script, and then this writes hello. We did a nice little H1 commands, header commands, a paragraph. We pop out of there, then we're back to HTML, and then we're back again to the script. So you can intermingle this, you can do all that kind of stuff. Again, I know very basic. Some of you have dealt with this, understand, but that's it. So you can play with it. It's just always, I'm a big proponent. As soon as you start that tag, open a tag, close it right away. That's another error I see a lot of developers will do. They'll forget to close that tag, and then they're like, it's not working. You didn't close it. So then again, think about it. What happens if you don't do that? Now let's do this. If I get rid of, I like to do this a lot. Actually, I'll just do this. I'll do // Will it do that for me there? Doesn't care. Look at that. You know why? It's not doing it. / doesn't have any effect there, right? Just getting rid of that. What if I do that? If I get rid of the / there, what happens there? I like to break things. Oh, look at that. Gone. Right? So what happened? So it starts off, I get my test body, I come in, I hit script, it comes down. You'd think it would hit this one and write that out, right? But it doesn't. Look at the color, everything changed. And then so opening script is there, closing script is there, but then I have another script that opens up. It messes it up. It doesn't know how to interpret it. So it's not like it goes line by line and says, oh, now I'm script. So just by the fact that I got rid of that, missing a /, you're missing a /. It's all it takes. It screws stuff up. Everything else chokes. You put the / back, boom, look at that. It goes back, we refresh this, and everything's back to hunky-dory. So just goofy stuff like that, and that's going to be part of what you're going to need to work on too, is just some of this troubleshooting when you write stuff, because that's the most common thing. Again, this isn't showing up. I did it, and we're going to follow some stuff in the book, and we'll do it together. We'll do the first exercise together. And follow it. And those of you who already submitted, that's fine. We can always if what we're doing is different than what you did, you can resubmit. It's not a problem. I usually give you, I think, 2 or 3, three opportunities to submit your work. A lot of times, if you submit something and you're off the mark or you missed a huge chunk or something like that, I'll say, here, take a look at this. Please resubmit it, and I'll give you a chance to resubmit it. I'd rather you get it right. Now, hopefully you submit it. Usually a lot of times you submit it before the due date to say, hey, I got this, but I couldn't finish it, whatever, then do that. Okay. I really don't like to take off points your way. I have students who do great work, who know how to code, they know all this stuff, and this is any class, not just this class, but yet they always hand their stuff in late, and it kills me because I'm like, what is going on? It just, and so they end up losing points because it's not fair because other students send in stuff on time, and so they lose points just because of that. So their code is fine. It's great. It's well documented. I can read it. I understand it. It works. And that's the big thing. So one of the big things is when you submit something, does it work, right? And after it works, I'm like, okay, can I read it? I have students I'll show you this really quick. He was really sharp. He was actually one of my high school students. And he liked to do this to me. He literally would put everything on one line. I can do it. This will take me forever. You get the idea. But he would have the whole thing on one line. And you can do that. This works. And you can test it. Spacing doesn't matter because, again, the visualization, the carriage returns and all that I'm doing, the white space, that's just for me. But all this, I can smush this. I'll do this. I'll save this again as an HTML file. Say this as test 3. Oops, geez. So I'll save that. Again, if I run this, oh, I missed something. See, and that's the danger you run into when you start doing stuff like that. You know, he was being funny about it. Like, so he literally would just this whole line. I want to kill him. But he was smart. He knew what he was doing. He had the, you know, but so it does work. It doesn't matter, again, because the carriage returns in spaces and all, that's just for your visual so you can read it. But when it's run, it doesn't care. So there it is. So body, right? I missed that one right there. So go back to that. Refresh it. There you go. But it looks terrible. Not the first time, no. Even it's kind of funky, yeah. I'm missing something here, head. I got the head there. See, that's the thing. I try troubleshooting this thing and you're scrolling. It's just insane. I have students who just don't, you know, they don't space anything. They're like, I don't want to space anything, and they don't do that. Again, I do it this way. I'm not telling you have to do it this way. I'm not going to mark points off if you don't do it the way I do it. I'm not like that at all. Because just like writing, every programmer has your own style of how they do stuff, and as the semester goes on, I'll get to know your style of how you do stuff. I just encourage you, white space is good, where you can see stuff. It's good. Blocking stuff off. You see I indent, I tab in. I do that on purpose because it's easier to read. And you'll notice in the book, when you go through the book, it does the same thing. So there's kind of a method behind the madness of why we do some of this stuff. So it's not just to make it look pretty and artistic. It's just so you can read it. It's for maintenance. Because again, I'm telling you, you're going to come in here 3 months, 6 months down the road, and you're going to try and figure out what you did. You've got no comments. You got this one line. It just would be a nightmare. And I've dealt with code like that. Most common thing is for new developers, new programmers, when they come into a place, you usually get small projects given to you, like maintenance projects. Hey, can you look at this website and just tweak this or add this or do this or do this? So you have to not only, you've got to start to get in there, you have to figure out what it's even doing, right? So you're on a website, what does it even do? And then you got to figure out how this new piece that you want to put in there works. Or the fun part is your manager comes to you and says, there's this function on the website, or this piece of the website, it doesn't look right, or it's not working the way we want it to work. Can you fix that? Okay. So then you got to go in, you got to see what it's doing, right? And then you got to say, okay, what do you want it to do? And you go from there, and you got to play with it. But it takes time to figure that out. Something I stress a lot with students also is it's not just about programming, but the business knowledge that you acquire wherever you work is invaluable. The more you know about the business, the better you are as an employee, and you become a much more valuable asset to wherever you are. The reason I say that is because you can hire consultants to do HTML all day. You can hire people to do programming, but you can't hire people who know your business like that. You just can't. It's impossible. I've avoided many a layoff because I knew the business versus just coding. You don't want to be a coding monkey. They can hire consultants, they can hire that stuff. It's good to know that, and you need to know that. But also, it's good to know the business. You need to know that if a manager comes to you and says something like, hey, we need to add this functionality to this program in the accounting system, that potentially you could say, you know what, if you do that, that's going to affect these other systems on the road because I happen to know they feed into those systems and these other areas, marketing and them also use this. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, because you can see, because I know from the code and I know how this affects these other businesses, and I know if you do that, we might want to talk to so-and-so. Boom, all of a sudden you've increased your importance because of what you know. And it's not just because of code. So just things to think about. learning as much about the business, because it also helps you make sure what you're doing, the code you're writing, is more accurate, is a tremendous benefit, not only to you, but to the company, especially for long term. So the more you know about that, and you don't know what you want to do. Do you always want to write code? Maybe some folks like to start off that way. Maybe they want to get into management. It used to be the way to make money was you start off in technical and then you go into management and you make the more money that way. It's not really that way anymore. You can easily make as much, if not more money, as a developer getting to a senior level position. You can easily make 6 figures. We have a couple students who work for a company here in Racine. It's a gentleman who's actually he owns a business. He started off a company in Silicon Valley. He's started a couple companies, and he started another company here, and they're making 6 figures. And they're not even done with school, so they're doing pretty well. But because they know what's going on, they learn the business, they learn about all this stuff. It takes time. And in fact, one was the project ended. I think he had a project that was going on. It ended. And he said, "Well, I got an offer from another company for another $20,000 a year more." And his boss was like, "Take it. If I have another project come up, I'll call you and I'll let you know." And he's like, "Okay." So and these are students who are not even out of school yet. It's crazy, right? These skills are desperately needed. All these skills that you're learning are desperately needed. And the thing is that hopefully you like it. You don't want to do it just to do it. You want to do it because I love coding. I love doing all this stuff. I think it's fun. I like the instant gratification of creating this page and boom, there it is, things like that. Solving problems, you're solving problems, things like that. But you want to like it. I told you I had students who were really good at doing it, but they didn't like doing it. So you want to like it. I mean, you're sitting in a chair for 8 hours, 10 hours a day doing stuff. You want to like what you're doing. Not every day it's like that, but anyway, I digress. So any questions? So far, we're going to do more. I got a lot more stuff. So, okay, so we played with that. I'll get rid of that. So there's that. It's very exciting. So yeah, it was good. I promised I wouldn't bore you with PowerPoints. But yeah, we're going back to PowerPoint for a minute. So hang on. So there's the script. We talked about the script tag, right? Objects, procedures, understanding, methods. And we're going to get into much more detail with some of this stuff as the semester goes on. Creating functions, doing a lot of that stuff. That's the power of programming. We're going to deal with properties and arguments and passing arguments. Again, JavaScript is very powerful. It's a very powerful language. So we use the right method, and that's what we were playing with before, and you saw that. Using script and then using document.write to do that. Again, I can do the same thing, like I said, within HTML, but the idea, again, is if I'm writing a script, I'm doing something. So then the question might be, well, why am I doing it that way? Why am I doing it that way? This is a very innocuous statement. It's very boring. I could have just put this in HTML. Well, yeah, but the idea is there might be a potential where you're writing code in a script, or you have code from a script where maybe you're getting data or something like that, and then you need to put some output to the screen. You know how you put an order in on a website, you put an order in on Amazon, you buy, I'm sure everybody's bought something from someplace at some time. Usually you get a response back, right? You get an email, you get some response back, things like that. Well, things like that, that's how that happens. It'll write it to the screen right there. It's got a script that's going, things like that. Did I show you too? I think, did we look at the Gateway website once? I like to show students this too. So if I go to Gateway, I right click, and you can do this on any website pretty much unless they disable it, and there's still ways around that. Right click, view page source. So there's all our source. Now, someone didn't write all this from scratch. A lot of this is also generated for you as you go along. But you can see some stuff that's really familiar, right? You've got my doc type HTML. There you go. And it's just plain old HTML page, right? English, I've got all this. You've got links, and then you've got all this other stuff going on. Look at that, JavaScript. So it's got some scripting going on. For searching? Yeah, thank you. They're using Drupal for this. That's interesting. Drupal is a content management system. I don't know if you've ever heard of, there's Drupal, there's Joomla, WordPress. Anybody hear of WordPress? Very popular content management system. WordPress is not just a blog word processor. People do e-commerce sites off of that. But if you ever want to know, and I encourage this, learn more about websites, Go to websites that you're interested in, and you're like, how the heck do they do that? You can't always see it sometimes. Sometimes it's hidden. But a lot of times you can just go like this, and you can just look at the source, and you can go through. You can see the style sheets they're using, what they're doing, things like that. Sometimes you can really cheat. I don't know if it'll let me do it. You can copy the exact, so this is the absolute position, absolute location of where this is. If I put that in there, will it let me do it? Yeah, there's a style sheet. There are tools out there that allow you to literally download a whole website. I mean, you could just go to Gateway's website or any website that you like, and you can literally download the whole thing to your own computer. And you can put it. Now, granted, you're going to still not be able to run certain things certain ways because it'll run only certain ways on their servers, on that company's servers. But it allows you to then see the source code of what's going on and learn from it and figure it out. You can do almost anything you want if it's just for you and it's not for commercial purposes. So you could go to a Google, you go to an Apple site, do any of that kind of stuff and figure it out. So if I go to even Apple, because they can't hide everything. I mean, it's just, so I'm on Apple site. All right, right click. See, now look at, they got rid of it there. If I do that, you can inspect elements. If I do view page source, they got a lot of white space, and look at that. They got a lot of stuff going on here. But again, guess what? It's an HTML page. That's all it is, right? It has to be. That's how it starts off, and they show you what's going on, and then you've got that. And like you said, you can. They're using JavaScript again. Gee, it's very popular, right? And it allows you to break down and go through everything. What's going on? Look, they have style sheets here too. How are they doing this? How are they changing this font? What font color? What font are they using? What library are you using? I like that font. What is it? You know, stuff like that. You can figure that out. This is not really related to JavaScript, but it just, again, it's a way to figure some of this stuff out. Notice here's some scripting here. We're going to talk about this. When you use, you can ideally, the thing is you don't want to have the scripting in your code itself embedded. You want to have it external to your HTML file. And so you'd create a JS, a JavaScript file. And that's what we will do that too. But anyway, I won't keep doing this. But so just to say, I mean, you can do this on almost any website. Again, there are ways that they can block you from doing certain clicks on your menu. But again, there's still ways around that. So anyway, I just want to show you. So that's Gateway site. Kind of interesting. Okay. So there's your right method. We talked about, reiterate again, case sensitivity in JavaScript. It is case sensitive. So you gotta watch that. HTML is not case sensitive. It's insensitive. But JavaScript is sensitive. So that makes it fun, right? You've got comments one way in HTML. You've got comments another way in JavaScript. So it's a battle. Part of the issue of being a developer of some of this stuff is just remembering just the syntax, how you're supposed to do it, things like that. Once you get into that, here's our comments. We talked about the comments. We were doing that before. The slash, the star, 2 slashes for 1 line, doing blocks of code. Again, I recommend if you're going to get rid of something, you want to comment it out. You don't want the code, comment it out until you know for sure. Okay? Let's see here. Variables. Powerful way of doing that. Have you all worked with variables before? Have any of you not worked with variables before? No, you have. Anybody else? Variables? No variables? So if anything, it'll be review. If you've never worked with variables, we'll talk about it. So a nice way with variables is it stores information, right? It stores data in there. It allows you to then manipulate it later so that you can do things with it. Again, what would it be? I want to get information off a website, name, address, city, state, zip, and I might store them in variables because I want to use them later on, right? Or user ID is very common. You log into a website, right? You log in with your name. You have to log into a network. You log into a website to get access to something, right? To get your account like Amazon, whatever you do. You log in, you've got your username, it's got a variable, it's storing that information. So the whole time that you're on that website using that page, it's got that information. And you're aware that a website is different than an application, in that the website eventually will time out and that data goes away, right? It's volatile. An application can keep it for a long period of time. An application can have as long as the application's running. Websites can go away. You refresh that web page or you just close that browser, boom, it's gone. Right? You're gonna start over. You're gonna relog in. Unless, of course, some of the websites are set up so that you can it retains the information just in the cookies. Most of the secure ones don't. Like once you close, like even when I use Blackboard, it's a real pain in the butt when I'm in Blackboard. If I lose my connection or anything like that for any length of time, boom, relog in. Yeah, which is a security feature. You know, they want to make it secure. We had some software that we were using. When I worked for Lake County, I worked for the sheriff's office helping support them. And they're in the squad cars, right? So they're on the road, they're going all over the place, and they get their signal from what? Cellular, right? So they had antennas on their laptop. So they got the laptop, they got the antenna on the laptop, right? Well, you know what I do. I don't know how they do it. If you're in the car and going someplace and say, hey, can you hear me now, right? Is it here? Am I here, right? Well, imagine you're in a squad car and you're trying to do stuff, you're trying to look something up, whatever the case may be, and as you're driving, your signal goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it's bad. So there's some cool software out there that actually intercepts the signal at the transport layer in the network so that it tells the network, it tells the laptop, it tells the operating system that you're always connected, even if you're not. And what does that do? This is a sidebar. What it does is it allows it so you don't get timed out, ever. So these officers and anybody else out in the field, because we have inspectors go out there in the field, they could be out there and it would look like they're connected, even though they weren't, but they could still use the application the way they were. And as soon as they got to a place where they had a strong signal, everything would be uploading, it would pick up and updating, which is awesome. Because the problem was every time they would lose their connection, what did they have to do? They had to relog in. So we could not ask them. They were like, we can't use an application. We have to log in 4, 5, 6 times a day. It's insane. You can't ask someone to do that. Can you imagine every time you'd have to go in, your laptop didn't lock up, your computer didn't lock up, you work at a job 8 hours a day, every time you went to the bathroom or went for a break or whatever, the system locks up, you have to log in every time. Now, you have to enter a password because it locks up, but we're talking full lockup and all that stuff. So there's things like this that allow you to do that, and you can do some of this with the web applications because it can store this information. Anyway, I'm talking too much, way too much. Let's see a couple more things and then we'll take a break. All right, so I love PowerPoint. Naming conventions with anything, you've got to name stuff correctly. You can begin with, like it says, uppercase or lowercase ASCII characters. You can do that, $sign or underscore. I'm kind of basic when I do variables. I try to name stuff, and these are reserved words you cannot use. You'll have issues. I'm very much of the opinion that you name a variable something that makes sense, right? So they're going to have, so like they have this one, var, they use the term, the keyword var, space, and then whatever you're going to call it. So occur time. So var, space, a variable name, and then whatever value you're going to do, or if you can do a value, right? So I go back to my code. I'm just going to use this code, keep using this. I can do this. So var, space, I don't know, my value, which is actually a terrible name because it doesn't tell you anything, right? I'll do that. So my value is test, okay? So var, and you'll notice right away it changes it to a different color and even italicizes it to tell you, hey, this is a keyword. And that's what it does with the other keywords. Script, body, all those, it tells you. And most editors work the same way as Notepad++. So like if you highlight one of the like tags, it tells you. If you highlight that, it tells you. So my value. So now my value is that. What was test? Okay. Now what I could do is I can print this out too. And how would I do that? I can just do this. I can say document.write, open parentheses, and I can just type in the word my value. Like so. And that should print out the word test down here. Let's see. Let's see if it works. There you go. So it did hello. in the big letters right there. So there's your big letters right there. And then right below it, then it did my value, which is test. Right there. And because I didn't do a line break or anything like that, it just did the very next line. Here's more HTML right here. It did that right there. So all I did was I assigned a value here. And that's something, you know what? We're going to get more into languages, variables, typing. Let's take a break and then we'll get into that because it's been enough. I'm going to pause. Before I was going to get into, I stopped off. We started doing this, and okay, so I created the var my value equals test. JavaScript is loosely typed, and I've got some notes. I'm borrowing that from Christian. He had a nice thing on this. Let me see where he left that. Well, you're telling it. And then here, so here, he's got this. This is kind of nice. So these are different languages that have it, but yeah. It's good and bad. And he had a nice little thing here. We talked about it. Yeah, strongly typed versus weakly typed languages. So let me go back to this. I'll show you this graphic. So strongly typed versus weakly typed. You've got PHP, Python, JavaScript. So you're creating something like I did. No, it's kind of small there. Maybe a little bit bigger. You could create something on the fly, a variable on the fly that you want to do, like I just did. And right here by this, you have no clue of what it's going to be. Is it an integer? Is it a double? Is it a decimal? Is it a string? Is it a character? Is it a Boolean? You're all familiar with these data types? Hopefully? Okay. So you have no clue what it can be until I actually assign it some value. In this case, I assign it what? A string. Right? In this case, I assign test. So that's what we call loosely typed. I'm not telling it right off the jump what it is. I'm just creating the variable in memory, boom, and then I'm assigning a value, and then it says, oh, it's a string. Okay, cool. We can work with that. So that's good and bad. It's nice because it allows me the flexibility to do different things. And like I said, so some of these weakly typed ones are like that, are those. And then there's a better description of it here. So strongly typed language is one which data type must be specified. So I have to tell it ahead of time and say, hey, just like in here, I'm using this. This is an integer. This number is an integer, okay? Or it's a string, or it's a double. I'm telling you right up front, this is what it is. This is what you have to use it for. So if I declare something as a number and I try to put a string in it, what happens? Right? And that's a technical term, right? Usually. Okay, so it doesn't like that. It chokes, right? Whatever the case may be. You can get away with certain nuances of this. So if you have a double which is a decimal, you can still put an integer in there. So those are some fun things that you have to remember too. I can still get away with doing some of that stuff. You're like, oh, it's a double. Well, no, I mean, it's a double, but you're putting an integer in there. You can do that, but you can't do the reverse. You know that, right? Because it chokes. So if you think about it, and again, this is just a side note. We're not going to get all into this. So we can if this is stuff you really need to know, right? So a double, that font is way too small. Let's just go bigger here. Let's do like 48 or something. How about 48? All right. So a double is what? Or decimal is what you call it, right? Is what? It's like, say, here's our famous one, 4. 159, right? So there's a double, right? You can do that. Whereas an integer, let's say 3. Okay. So if I have something, a variable, a var that I create, so I say var, I say my num. If I say all of a sudden that this is what 3. Say it's 3.14159, whatever like that, right? I'm saying right now that's a double, but I could also go down the road and I could say, well, see, this is probably, in a regular language, I can do this. I can say my num is now equal to 3. It's interchangeable. JavaScript's kind of wacky. It doesn't matter. JavaScript, I can do anything. I can do this too, right? So it's just like, what? That's the good and the bad, right? It's very flexible, but at the same time, you can really screw things up if you're not aware of what's going on. That's all I'm trying to say there. So strong type, again, strong type means you got to tell it, hey, this is a string, this is a double, this is a Boolean, whatever the case may be is. Whereas like what we're dealing with, it's a weakly type one. They talk about it here. So use a $Bob box is equal to Bob, the string, right? But then I can go down and I can say, guess what? Now I'm going to say it's true. Now, to be honest, and then you can go and say it's an integer. So in theory, this object you just created is all of a sudden 3 different types of data, which is just wrong. It's just bad. That's bad coding. You don't want to do that. But you can do that. So you can step on yourself very easily with this. So you got to be careful. That's why there's good and bad about that. There's a ways around it, but again, you have to be aware. So a strong type language is nice because when you actually build the program and do that right away, if you try to use it in a manner it's not intended to do so, it does that to you, right? Sorry, I'll stop doing that. And if you do, it's okay, right? Everything's fine. These are actually these are lecture notes under prepare. These are from another instructor, Christian Herr. I just like them, so I keep them. So it's under home. And we're under Unit 1, U1, Chapter 1, and then under Prepare. Yeah. Normally, I don't have these spread out, just FYI, like this, because I think it's too many clicks for you. I'm a firm believer as a web developer, the less clicks, the better. But you'll notice when you go into Prepare, there's a lot of stuff. He did a lot of videos, he did a lot of stuff. And so normally I like to have everything on one web page. I think it'd be too much for you. That's why I kept it separated. He has it separated. I decided to keep it separated. Because you're the sorry, I'm back. This is just a side note because the practice and apply are just one item. Practice is just one item of information. That's it. And the apply is just the assignment. And that's it. But they would be all the way at the bottom. I could put it at the top. If you really want me to combine them, I'd be happy to. I just think that with just the prepare, there's just so much information. I just hate to overwhelm you with it. Especially if all you want to do is just get to the assignment. That's why. So just always remember the apply is the assignment. Anyway, yes. So these are the notes. I think most of the units have lecture notes like this. This is mostly from the book. And again, because of class time, I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to try and highlight. And like I said, maybe we'll go through some of the first unit there too. But this is just extra notes and things like that for you to look at. Because remember, this is a blended class. So typically in this class, you would potentially be in class for 4 hours. It's long. I told you 4 hours. It's long. But technically that's what it's supposed to be. That's how we changed the blended. So you spend some of your time yourself doing stuff. Okay. Not that you're not doing stuff anyway. So loosely typed versus strongly typed. That's what that means. So if you ever hear that again, you'll know what's going on. Like that. Okay. And that's what's getting, okay. So creating variables, got that. Right? So again, here's some variables here. Created one, it's a double. Sales total is a double. Shipping is an integer. And then they're adding them up. You can do mathematical functions. You can do all kinds of functions with the variables. So there's a lot of power that you can do. You can play with this stuff. You can do all kinds of different things with it. That's the whole benefit behind it. I can grab data, manipulate it. That's what programming is about. Programming is about making something, automating something, making it easier for you to do, things like that. Why would you do it in the first place? If it's easier to do it with a piece of paper and a pencil, then why are you even running a program? Then you're probably doing too much. But if it's getting more complicated, you want to do calculations, things like that, you want to automate stuff, then you write a program. That's what this is about. So this is a very simple one. Obviously, you would never hard code stuff. They're just doing this as an example. You don't want to hard code variables and things. That's bad. That's bad. Why do you think, let me ask you this. Why do you think it is bad to hard code values in a program itself? Exactly. Yeah. So if I add this in here and then shipping, and all of a sudden shipping changed say, from $10 to say $12 because UPS or FedEx changed their rates or USPS changed their rates, I have to physically go into the program, I have to update that amount, I have to recompile, and I have to ship it all to my customers. That makes no sense whatsoever, right? You want to have this stuff separate. Normally what you do, and most customers do, is typical, is they have this information in a database, or at least a separate external file that has nothing to do with the program itself. And the program can either pull it out of an external file, either a text file or an XML file or a database. They can grab that, pull it in, and then boom, they've got the updates. So if someone's updating shipping, which is very common, which should be separate, they'd go in, they'd update the database, and now the program will just pull the new information. So that's very common. That's the way it works. That's the way it should work. But just for our example, we do this. And this is fine, even for our class and what we're doing, because we're not working with databases right now. Doing stuff like this is perfectly all right. But just so you're aware, best practices, you would not want to do this. Now, there are situations, there are situations where you can get away with this. Here's the situation. How often, when's the last time we changed the number of states in the country? Does anyone know the last state that was added? Last 2 states? There you go. Yeah. So that was back in when? You know? 50s? Was it 50 something? Yeah. Yeah. In Puerto Rico, you can't count. They are a commonwealth, but they're not actually a state. But the reason I'm bringing it up is, so we've got 50 states that have been around for a long time. That's static. You could probably get away with doing something like that if you wanted to. That's not going to change. Again, I would still potentially recommend putting it in a database. A lot of people will do that. A common thing to do is like to listing states. You do it all the time. You go to a website, it says where you live, right? You'll get a drop down and it has all your state codes. Most than likely, they pull down from a database and they just put that right in there. Boom, you're done. So even stuff like that is so static that, yeah, there's probably like a 99.9% chance that's never going to change, at least anytime soon. What'll happen is all of a sudden Puerto Rico will become the 51st state, and then you got to go and you got to change it, right? So why even worry about it? So that's the whole idea behind the database is you do that, or even a text file, anything that's external from the program you want it. It's just like you talked about, you guys understand about style sheets in HTML, right? Style sheets are external, you keep those external for the very reason. Someone all of a sudden says, I don't like that font anymore. I used to like it a year ago, but I'm off that font. I'm off Helvetica. I'm a more Arial Times Roman kind of mood these days, right? You go in a style sheet, you change it right there. Boom, it's external from the content, right? You don't have to mess with it. That's what you want to do. So anyway. So again, you can do all these types of calculations. It shows you here. Again, I can play with different things. So here again, I've got some code. And I know I want to make sure, well, you know what? It's 9:26 already. Jeez. Wait, we end at 10 after, so we have some time. We're good. Okay. I get forget. Okay. So this has different. This notes have just different pieces of information about property values, things like that. But I'm gonna, instead of just going through all this stuff, it's kind of nice. Let's do this. So when I was asking you for the unit, let's see. Sometimes I just like to write. So we're doing 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 in the book, right? In JavaScript. I gotta double check. Do I have my JavaScript book on here? Thought I did. Do I not have it here anymore? I have a different JavaScript. Ah, phooey. Okay. All right, I have it. That's okay. I have Java. It's not Java, it's JavaScript. That's okay. So 1.1. I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I think it might be beneficial to go through some stuff, and then we can always come back. And so let's just, what we can do is, I know a couple of you have already submitted it, but I figure we can go through some of this together, and we can always come back and we can talk about notes because I like to do that instead of just listen to me blathering. And we can cover all the topics. Yeah, I like that actually. You ever have one of those bikes when you were a kid You know, my sister had one of those with a banana seat, and they had the handlebars up here. It's like, you ever see those guys on those choppers? Oh my gosh. They're like, the legs are like out here. Like, it's like, how do you ride? It just doesn't look comfortable. Anyway, I digress. Yes. Okay. So 1-1. So hands-on project 1-1. So what they want us to do is just get used to the scripts and doing that. So we can do this together just to get our feet wet and go from there. Now, a lot of this is saying, oh, I want to open the hands-on project in chapter 1 folder. Okay, so I got to make sure. And I attached. So those of you who didn't notice, there is an attachment chapter 1 zip right here. So to do this, what you can do in Blackboard, you can go and you can click on that and you can download it, kind of get you started. So you're not starting anything from scratch. So I'll just kind of do this with you. I'm going to keep mine in my downloads folder. I'd recommend that what you do is you create a, well, you know what, I'll be a good boy. And I will go to my JavaScript. I have a folder. Is it here? Not that one. I have too many JavaScripts. So I create a folder on my computer under Documents. You don't have to do this. It's up to you. Because I develop in a lot of languages, I just have a folder called Develop. And you'll notice I have HTML, I have Java, Java Programming 1, JavaScript, PHP. So I'll just put this in my JavaScript folder. I don't have a lot in this one. I just have some scripts. It's just a way for me to organize my information. You don't have to do it. You can do it however you want. Whatever is going to make it easier. Because again, I'll tell you, I have students that'll say, I know I did that, but I can't find it. What'd you name it? I don't know, something. That's not helping me. I can't help you find it. You know. So if you forget it, at least you'll know generally where you put it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to take this. I'm going to drag this here. Move that there. Close my downloads, and now I'm just going to extract it here. I use something called 7-zip, but your Windows should be able to do the same thing. And I'm going to extract it to my chapter 1. So everything's in chapter 1. Hopefully it should have everything. There we go. So chapter 1. So there you go. We've got all the hands-on projects. Now there's extra hands-on projects in here. I gave you everything. We're only doing the first 3, I ask you. 1, 2, and 3. Right. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. But obviously you can see there's more. So some students get ambitious and they're like, hey, I want to try other stuff. Go for it. That's fine. So let's look at 1.1.1. Already included in there is this modernizer custom JavaScript. The book talks about that too. I don't know if you saw that. Where was it? What page was that? The library. Page 50 and 51. Actually, 51. Modernizer is JavaScript code that enables older versions of Internet Explorer to work with HTML5. I know you're thinking Internet Explorer, but yeah, actually, there are people who still use that Explorer. Whether or not that code base also still includes the new Internet Explorer, right? Yeah. So just for the safe side, you can keep including it. You might not need to anymore because this book is written a couple years ago, many years ago. But honestly, I don't know anybody who still uses Microsoft Internet Explorer. Even Edge it's okay. I mean, it's just we use Chrome here, so I just kind of stick with Chrome. But I like Firefox too. I have a Mac, so I use Safari too. It's just what you're comfortable with. I have no preference. I am browser agnostic, so whatever you want to use. So it's going to tell you you're going to open up index.html. So I'm going to right-click on it. I'm going to edit with Notepad++ because that's what I'm using. And there we go. You'll notice right off the bat, if you haven't done this already, and this is our common practice. Good best practice is you've got the name of your program, whatever the case may be, is at the very top in comments. You'll notice you've got the exclamation mark, so the bang dash dash. How do you want to say it? Is your comments. But you've got comments at the very top of the program, so anyone who comes in your program right away can see what the name of it is, potentially what the purpose is, who wrote it, and when they wrote it, as well as the last author. Because a lot of times what you'll do is you have multiple people who did it. So I'll just put C. Venkas, and I'll put my date, 1/14. And again, you may be like, this is tedious. And yeah, it is, but you know what? This is going to save someone or potentially you down the road. When did I do that? I did that when? Who did that? And then what I also will do updated later on. You don't have to write this, but I'll just say updated by, and then, you know, like Joe Schmo, right? And you put a date in there for that. So at least you know. Yeah, I remember doing that, but that's not my code. And you go look at it, you'd be like, oh, Joe was in there doing stuff. What was he doing? Maybe it was Ernie or Bert, or who knows, you know. I don't know. Maybe Ernie had a banana stuck in his ear. Okay, hands-on project, 1-1. All right. So this comes with some of the basic stuff here. Look at, here's our style sheet, CSS. Do we have style sheet in here? Yeah, style CSS. And if you're curious, look at it. What does the style sheet even do? Oh, okay, it's got quite a bit of stuff. It's got a natural box. It does this. It does this. Blocks, body. It's got changes. So it's doing quite a bit of stuff in here. Again, what I recommend before you do anything, just come in here, do your name and that, run it. See what it looks like. See what it does. What is it even doing? Okay, now we know. So hopefully at least that works. You've got the basics. Now, something else to consider that I've talked about with source control, and I'll kind of do this so you can kind of keep an eye on it, is some people will do something like this. They'll go in here and right before they do anything, now we have a zip file so you can always unzip it and redo it if you screw it up. You can also do this, Control-C, Control-V, and copy it, just so you have a backup. Now it's my backup. And you can rename it too if you want to. Back, B-A-K, B-A-C-K, whatever. You don't have to, but I will do that a lot of times before I even go and touch a file. I'm like, all right, I'm going to touch it, and there's probably a good chance I'm going to screw something up, or I may want to change something. So I'll just make a copy of it. I'll do it with spreadsheets. I'll do it with Word documents. I do it with anything because I make mistakes a lot. It just happens. So now I've got my copy. It's really simple, real easy. I'm in here. I screw something up. All I do is delete that one and go back to the original, right? No harm done. I've seen in students, I've done it myself, spend hours and hours trying to fix something when all I had to do was go back, start over, and it would have been so much quicker. And it may seem crazy sometimes, but you spend so much time going in circles sometimes trying to figure stuff out. How did I do this? Why did I move this? You know what? Start over, go from scratch, maybe keep it, go back, and then slowly put in piece by piece what you know is working, and then you can go. Maybe you missed a slash. Maybe you missed a whatever. You know, you missed something silly. That happens all the time. So just my 2 cents. Okay, so what do they want us to do? We got that. We put our name. We put our address. Put all that. Just above the head tag, add the following element. So we do this above the head tag, right? So we're going to go above here, and what do they want us to do? We're going to include the script. So we're going to do this. And again, I can hit an extra space if I want. Script, source, and no, I don't have this memorized. Modernizer, the way they spell it. Custom.0518.0518.js. Again, it's an external JavaScript, which we will do that as well. And they're putting it all in one line, and so now what you do is you close it. So you're like, well, that's kind of weird, right? Because you've opened the script and you closed it. So that's all it's doing. It's using a JavaScript, and it's just referring to an external one. So you have nothing in there. You could put something in there, but you don't. We don't need to, because we just want to use this script. Okay? And then within the article element below, the H2 element. So you got to find H2 element. There's H2. I'm going to enter a couple times. I can make this bigger too. You can see it better. So in the H2 element, enter the script command. I'm sorry, below the H2 element. So I go below H2, boom. Do another script. So they want to do another script right there. And then we'll close it. Make sure always you open it, you close it. So there's my script. If you want to, again, if you're like, you know, I've been adding lines of code, I want to make sure I'm still okay, save it, refresh it. I see no changes to this web page, so I must be okay, right? Simple way to do it. Highly recommend. Make some changes, just check it, make sure you didn't blow something up. Okay, within the script section, you create the previous step, enter the following statement. So we're going to just do some very exciting document writes, right? I know this is not cutting edge stuff, I know. So we're going to create an ordered list. like so. Side note, another side note that has nothing to do with programming. If you've never done it before, and some of you I know I can see are pretty quick, if you've never taken a typing class and you want to speed up your typing, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of online software that does it. I took one in high school, and it was like the best class I ever took. It helps. I had a project manager that I used to work with. This is literally him. He was good. He was fast. He had 2 fingers, but he was doing this. And he was my manager. And he was a programmer. I'm like, dude, really? Button text and steroids? It was just like, even if you only type 20 to 30 words a minute, that's so much better and it's faster. It better be accurate. But because I've had some students who can type 60, 70 words a minute, and they're just like, now typing a letter in words or email versus code is a little bit different, but you will thank yourself if you're doing a lot of coding that if you can type faster, it'll make your life easier instead of constantly how to do this, how to do that. And there's some online ones. I used to take like the Mavis Beacon one or some other ones online. They're free. And they give you tests and you play with it. Highly recommend it if your typing is not that fast. Okay, document. At least we'll get one of these done, I think, right? And then, so get this. What we're going to do is we're going to actually build this ordered list through the script, even though this is all HTML code, right? Oh, wait, so this is ordered list, OL. And then you're going to close it and then quote semicolon. Okay? So it's kind of weird, but again, they're just showing you how you can do this stuff. And again, you can copy and paste, you can do all kinds of stuff. So what I'm going to do is, I'm lazy because we're going to be doing a lot of these document writes. I'm going to take this chunk and copy it. So all I have to do is at least paste that, right? And then we'll do this li. I keep forgetting this, li. So list item. So you guys remember ordered lists and unordered lists in HTML? So OL is an ordered list, and that's just numeric, usually 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, things like that. You can do whatever you want. Unordered list, typically you're using dots and dashes, things like that. That's the only difference. Reduce. What am I reducing? Reduce spending on non-necessities. I'll make this bigger. Like did I spell that right? I don't know. And the editor doesn't care if you didn't spell it right. /li. So there's one list item. Now you could check it right now and say what's going to happen now. Oops, sorry. Meant to minimize it, not do that. So I saved it, refresh it. There you go. Look at it. I already have one in there. Reduce spending on non, right? It's an ordered list, OL. So it already takes the first one and puts a number on it, saying, oh, okay, yeah, you're an ordered list. I'm going to do that. Like that. And you're adding it to an existing section, so because CSS is being used with the colors, the fonts, and all that, it just incorporates that into there. It just, boom, adds that onto there. So that's kind of nice. I'm not even touching the CSS. It's just doing it for me. Okay. So now we're going to type a lot more. I know, this is kind of tedious here. Another LI, right? What is this one? Use extra money to pay off debt. You know, we don't have to type everything. I'm going to say use extra money to pay off debt because I'm lazy. You get the idea. The whole thing is just you understand how this is working. /li. Always close off your tags. I forgot the semicolon there. And did I forget it there? Forgot the semicolon there. Okay. Document.write. Continue paying off debts. How about that? We'll just say that. Again, li. Could have just copied the whole darn thing, right? Continue paying off debt. Again, /li. Yes, it does become a little tedious sometimes with some of this stuff. And then, oops. We'll play with a couple things too to see if you screw up. What happens when you make mistakes again? Because that's going to happen. And then what is it? Put a fixed percent of your pay aside. How about that? /li. like so. Okay. Semicolon. Okay. So I've got all that. Let me make this a little bigger so you can see it better. Put a fixed percent. And I'm just on page 65 in the book. We'll do that. And then finally, we have to close it up, right? So we started off with the ordered list, right? And then we have to close the ordered list, right? So quote, and then it's like slash OL, just like that. Nope. This is a parenthesis. See, it's so easy to make these little typing mistakes because you're playing with all these different symbols and stuff like that. All right. So ordered list, bunch of list items, and then close it off. And then make sure I have the /li/li/li. Okay, we're good. And then refresh. Oh, this is very exciting. Very exciting. I know. Okay, don't laugh too hard. All right. And that's really, well, yeah. They also want you to use W3C to validation. If you do the validation, which you can do, don't freak out about errors and stuff like that. We can talk about errors. It's not a problem. Have you guys done the validation? You remember doing that? W3C validation? I'll do it really quick here just to refresh us. W3C validator. Normally they want it off the server like that. But you can do what? You can also, because we're right here, I can literally just take this whole section of code. I can just copy it. I can just paste it right in there if I want to too. So you can upload your file. You can do direct input like I just did, or you give them the URL for it. So I did that. Input. I'll check it. And what happened? Oh. So it gave me a couple of warning concerning language. Okay, so I didn't have language tabs and I didn't have language in there. Yeah, some stuff. So I mean, some minor stuff, but nothing blew up. So we're good. So it looks nice. It didn't blow up. That's all I care about. If you get some weird stuff that comes up, then you probably have to take care of it. No, I didn't have language in here, did I? Well, this was the template they gave us. That's what they gave us to work with, right? What's on them? So anyway, don't worry about it. But that's it, right? So already you're dealing with an external JavaScript file. You're dealing with external style sheets again like before. You're playing with that and it's lists. And you have a script here like that. That's it. So that's the gist of it. Again, anything you can do in HTML, you can do in here with that. So let's go back. So I haven't gotten to variables yet. We're talking about variables here. Let's do this. We don't do variables in this one. Which is funny. There's two, yeah, they do. It's just such a does that with all the variables, two list names. Okay. Dash two. Okay. All right, let me go back. Let me make sure I'm covering stuff here. Otherwise, we can do the second one too if you want. So let me just go here again. So we got the variables, got the names, make sure those are good. Again, you can do calculations. You can do all kinds of stuff with that. Literal values, anything you can do in events. Yeah, there's ways you can monitor all kinds of things, interact with the web pages. And like I said, you can do kinds of validation. JavaScript is very powerful. There's a lot of things you can do with JavaScript, which is really kind of cool that you couldn't do before. The idea behind a lot of this stuff too is, I think I mentioned it in one of my classes, maybe it wasn't this class, garbage in, garbage out. You maybe heard other students giggle. So the idea is you want to capture stuff on the front end before it gets into your system or your database, right? You have checks all the way. There's all kinds of checks going on to make sure that. So you want to enter something. You want someone to enter a name, right? There's a good chance that they're not going to have a number in their name, unless you're the artist formerly known as Prince. You have a symbol, right? You might have a graphic. But normally you're just going to have letters and things like that. So you might just say, okay, for first name, I only want letters. So on the front end, you put stuff in there and say, only accept letters. That's it, right? That's all you can put in there. So if they put it in there, so if they start entering 1, 2, 3, whatever, you can say, I'm not taking it, right? Now, granted, if there's special circumstances, you can make adjustments. But the idea, again, is you can't prevent someone from entering misspellings, things like that. Well, there's things you can do. But again, the more checks you do on the front end to make sure that data is good and valid, the better it is. Otherwise, what happens is this data goes through the system, you're running stuff, you've been working in the system for weeks, maybe months, and all of a sudden your manager says, can you run me some reports on some of the sales to see what's going on? And it says, I don't know, Hookah Bugga sold 3 million things, whatever, things are way off. So the reports are useless because the data got in there, trash stuff, right? So basically it means that the application that you're using, that they've been using for weeks or months, maybe years, is terrible. So that's a problem. I was talking about this in our data analytics class, and a common thing here too. We talk about numbers and things like that. Another big issue is this about validation. I used to work again for Lake County, and the sheriff, deputies would enter information in the jail. Inmates come in, they'd have to put the stuff in, right? Something so simple as a drop down was not in the system. A drop down list where you have to select like a city. Now the jail was in Waukegan, so Waukegan is spelled like that, right? Simple, right? You work there, you figure it out, you know what it is. Now, people would come from all over, but usually they were from the area. They'd be from Beach Park, all these different areas around. But something as simple as Waukegan, they would do Waukegan. They'd put spaces in, walking again. You're like, walk space again. And this trashed your data. And they're freeform. Anytime a user can do freeform text, it's just a nightmare. So I got the job because I was developing. They said, Chris, can you go clean this up? Sure, no problem, right? So you'd have to figure out and create an algorithm to try and figure out what they were meaning, because they already have other cities in here too. They'd have something like Park City, right? Not Park City, Utah, but Park City down there. There's a Park City down there. There's one called Beach Park. But again, can you imagine all the misspellings and variations that could happen with some of that stuff, right? Beach Park, things like that, right? Misspelling. So you have to go. So the idea was I'd come up with ideas and say, okay, if they kind of had part of this, I'm guessing that's what it is. But it's also dangerous because then all of a sudden I'm putting numbers, assigning numbers to things. So then what I would have to do is I would run my reports, my code, and I'd say, okay, I think these are correct. I'd go to one of the sergeants and I'd say, these are what I'm coming up with. Can you tell me if this is accurate? Because he knows the system, he understands the data business. Now it's a jail, but he understands the business. So that's what I'm talking about with the business. If you have a program and you run data and you do stuff like this and you create programs and reports, you got to know that what you're doing is even valid, right? Chris, you're creating these reports, but what you're doing makes no sense whatsoever. Well, what do you mean? We have, like, say, I think they had 750 inmates in the system. You're doing stuff that is affecting like thousands of people, and we only have like 750 people in here. So, so they're like, what you're doing is not working, is incorrect. And I have to go back and have to figure it out. So you want to also validate what you're doing, right, is true. So there's a lot of things. The joke about lawyers only ask questions they know the answers to. I don't know how true that is because I'm not a lawyer. But as a programmer, when you do testing, you have expected results, right, of what you should get. So I should know potentially if I go through this and I have this data in my system, I should potentially come out with 4 Waukegans, right? I'm thinking there would be 4 of them, right? If I come out with only 1, then maybe something's not right with my algorithm. I have to go back and tweak it. Same with these. I should come out with 3 beach parks that are all correctly this way, right? Because again, I'm thinking if it's close enough, then I'm going to fix it and make it how it should look, okay? But you also need a baseline to go against to figure out what you're going with, right? That's the whole idea. That's what I'm getting at. So that's why I get back to the data issue. When you know data, it's tremendous because then you understand what you're working with. Any true programmer really learns the systems, understands how they work, and understands the data behind the systems, the business processes, and all that goes on. It's not enough. You can't just go in and start writing. I mean, you can, but you create havoc. We had a developer on staff, brilliant guy. He would literally spend 80% of his time doing analysis, planning, all this stuff. 80%. And then when he wrote his code, he went like that because he knew exactly what he had to do, how he had to do it, and he could write. It was efficient, and it almost always worked. I can't do that. Most people can't. I go crazy. But I'm not the opposite. You had a lot of developers, especially new programmers, that come in and they're like, "What's the problem? Oh, is this okay?" And they just start writing code right away. If then do this, right? They start doing all this stuff right away. Right? You got to find a medium of what works for you. Figure out the problem, figure out what's going on, and then kind of go from there. Anyway, kind of off. I know I'm a little bit over the place, but kind of throwing stuff at you. So here's a bunch of events. Anyone remember some of this stuff from HTML? Blur, change events, click events, all that kind of stuff. So you can intercept a lot of these events, do different things with JavaScript also. The mouse over, that's a common one, right? You hover your mouse over something, it gives you information. I like those, like tooltips, things like that. Those are nice. Hey, I hover my mouse, I'm on a field to do something. I don't know if Gateway has stuff or some sites have stuff. I don't have one off the top of my head. You do a search, I hover, yeah, look at it. There you go. If I put my mouse, I'm not even typing anything. I put my little mouse there, it tells me, enter the items you wish to search for. Now, some of these things are also, you have to think about in terms of this. Here's another issue, ADA, compliance, right? You and I, as far as I can tell, can all see what we have on the screen, right? But I've had students who need to use screen readers. I have a student who just went through IT Essentials using screen readers. Now, I don't know how he did it. That was tough. Because there's certain things you just can't read. It's hard. I give him a lot of credit, though. He really tried, and he got through the class, but it's tough. Yeah. And Blackboard has that built in, too, in case you didn't know. If you're ever not sure, there's a thing down here. Not here. Where is it? I forget where it is. That just expands. That does that. But there's a reader. Do I have to highlight a section? I always forget. Like that. I thought I could just do a section. There's a way. It's automatic. It should show you. Oh, yeah. Thank you. It showed up. So I can activate that. Is it playing? Announcements. There you go.
Announcements.
Right there.
New announcements appear directly below the repositionable bar. Reorder by dragging announcements to new positions. Move priority announcements above the repositionable bar to the top of the list and prevent new announcements.
The reason I bring that up is a lot of students, and not just students, but other people, they'll use screen readers or things like that. So part of the reason also when you create stuff is when you create stuff, that's why when you create different things, even in HTML, you have the alt function, alternate. So if an image doesn't show up, it tells the person what should be there. Oh, it should be a picture of a sailboat. Oh, it should be this, a hamburger, whatever the case may be. So those are things that are very important. And that's why I say, so if they go over here, they can figure out. And some students are maybe they have a hard site. They can still kind of make things out, but with this, it helps them. And they can say, oh, am I in the right place? And I can tell them, and it would read to them what it is. So these are things that help you. And JavaScript allows you to do some of the stuff to enable this functionality. It's really kind of nice. Some of these are built in HTML5, some of these enhancements, so you don't have to do that with JavaScript, but other stuff you do with JavaScript as well. So you kind of got best of both worlds. And again, the reason I bring it up is because ADA compliance, it dictates, it says you need to set these websites up because, again, you have to think in terms of not just yourself, of how to do that. I was working on a business many, many, many years ago with someone, and we were doing websites, and we were just doing some stuff. And I would create the website, and I thought it looked pretty good, and then I'd put it out there on the server for him to look at, and he'd look at it. He was out in Boston, and he'd be like, this doesn't look right, Chris. This is off. I'm like, really? Yeah, this is off. This doesn't look right. Well, we went back and forth about 5, 6, 7 times, and finally I was like, "What are you looking at this in?" Because we couldn't figure it out. He was using a different browser. So it can be the screen size. So we checked some of that, but it was the browser. I was using Internet Explorer at the time. This is pretty long ago, and he was using, I think, Firefox or something else. And there was just enough differences in them that when I did stuff, like my stuff looked good, but his stuff was kind of out of whack, and it was driving me nuts. And that's one of the reasons also we ask you in your company, whenever when you're doing stuff, you want to check your stuff on some of the main browsers like the Firefoxes, Chrome, even Edge, because people still use it, other ones. And now you get to check it on tablets and phones and all that other kind of stuff. It's impossible to check every variation, but most companies will do the mobile version of the site. I don't know if you guys ever did any of that stuff. I know you do that in Web 1. Yep. So you'll take the regular one and you'll say if it's a mobile site, it adjusts it accordingly because you just can't fit the same information. Now, some companies choose not to do that. And you'll notice if you ever go to the website. So I've gone to company websites with my phone, and sometimes it's the same exact website as on my desktop. And the ones who update it, actually, it's different. So it's a subset of what you get, but it's much more easy to navigate. But it just depends. And it costs money. Someone's got to go in, they got to write the code, they got to make the adjustments. And that's what some of this is about too. It's about making adjustments so that it's again a better user experience. How often you go to a website to do something and it doesn't work the way you intended, you get frustrated, right? There's a good chance you might not go back there, right? I've done that many times. I go there and I'm like, it's like getting an app on a phone. You get an app on a phone that you download, you thought you would like it or whatever. Maybe it didn't work or didn't work quite right. Maybe once or twice you try it, and then what do? Gone. I don't have time for this. Swipe, you're out of here, right? Same thing. Especially now, we're very picky. We're very quick to just say, hey, I don't want to do this because there's so many choices out there now. So as developers, we've got to make sure that we've got all this stuff down. So it's nice to have this stuff, like I showed you, the mouse over, all these different functions of what you can do in JavaScript to do that. There's all the different events. And each one of these, all these events are working together to do different things. The second exercise we do, how are we doing? Take out 10 minutes. There's more variables. We can do that. And I think I had to do a third. The third one is an alert. So, the third one, let's do this. I'll let you do the second one, but we have time. I'll do the third one. Let's do the third one together. Because that's an event that shows up. Let's do that. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to leave this here. We can easily do that. And then you'll have at least 2 exercises done. Okay. And then don't forget also your project idea. Again, if you're stuck, let me know. If you have yays, something like that. If you say, hey, Chris, I've got this website that I did. Do you think this would work? Just send me the URL. Just your idea, or even if, like I said, even if you've got a website that already exists, you're like, I'm going to use this. Is this okay? That's fine. Yeah. I want you to think about it because if we wait too long, even though 15 weeks goes like that, right? Just think about it. And then just say, hey, because then if you've got something, like I said, I had a student who had that camping website, and she wanted to use that because she just wanted to add on to it. And I said that was fine. And it actually worked out. She was able to implement some of the elements right in there very easily. It worked just fine. A lot of students I have do a lot of gaming. So they like take a gaming website and they'll do stuff with keeping track of scoring and some of them check of their players, skins, all that kind of crazy stuff. So it just depends. Yeah, just kind of, yep, that's it. Okay, so what am I doing now? This is 1-3, right? So chapter 1, here's 1-3, hands-on project 1-3. Guess what? We're going to open up index just like before, right? I'm going to right-click on that with Notepad++. Gee, this looks familiar, right? So same thing. Again, just you'll put your name and your date in there. 1/14. Whoops, I keep forgetting it's 2020. Did I change the other one? Oh yeah, 2020. Yeah, so 2020. Okay, so what do we want to do? Yeah, we're going to add that modernizer script again. above the head command, same thing. But I'm lazy. I'm going to go back to the one I just did, and I'm just going to copy it. I love copy and paste. I live by copy and paste. There you go. Boy, that was hard. Again, I probably went too fast. I should probably run this just to make sure to see what it looks like again. So I'm going to launch this in Chrome. So there you go. You got an order form set up for you. Dates, things like that in there. Drop downs. So here's another example. The months of the year are not going to change. So you don't want the user to freeform type that in there, right? You'd want to have a drop down. So they would have to do that. Same with numbers, things like that. You know there's no more than 31 days in any month, as far as I know, unless things have changed. So you could get away with that. That's hard-coded. There's no problem with that. Years is a little trickier, right? I'll have people do up to the current year and just keep going back. You can do that, especially if you're doing someone's age or something like that. You'd have to go back pretty far just to make sure you incorporate it. So it's kind of up to you, and it's up to whoever is telling you to design this. Anyway, back to what we're doing. So here's our form. We know what it looks like. What happens if I click submit? Does it do anything? No. Hold on one sec. Back. Okay. So we're back here. So submit doesn't do anything. Go back to the code. What's it going to do? So what we're going to do is we're going to locate the field set element. We're going to go through. You can see everything. You can see how this is broken up. You've got our header. Here's our header section. You have the H1. It tells you the project, which is nice. You can see that at the top there. And then we have it broken up. We have article elements in there, and you can see how big this is? There's a lot of information. Look at all that. And they hard-coded this all in there. Look at that. Boom. Anyway. So here's our field set. We have a couple of them, right? We're setting these different fields. So what do they want us to do? Locate the final field set element with the ID submit button. So we're going to go all the way down. There it is. So here's a field set and submit button. Okay. We're going to find that just before the closing form tag, right there. We're going to enter within the input element. So I'm going just before the closing form tag. Within the input element, then create something and add the following event handler. So in input, I'm going to do it in here, right? So in there. So when you click, so on click, right? If you start typing it, it'll actually tell you, it should come up. There you go, on click. We want to say equals, we're going to do an alert. If I can spell correctly. What do they want me to say? Thanks for your order. Which is very common. Single tick, single quotes. Yeah, this is a single tick in there. Okay. Going to close it, and then you're going to do the semicolon and quotes. So you got to watch your quotes and your tick marks. As long as it's the same, it's okay. So inside here, it's a single tick or single quote. I call them single ticks, whatever. And on the outside is the full quote, because what it's doing is it's executing this JavaScript command for you. And it's doing it on the event when someone clicks on it. So when they click submit, it's going to do that. Now, there's always the thing about if something doesn't work or whatever not, the order doesn't go through, you still get thank you for your order, and it still didn't go through. There's other issues about that. But so anyway, so we've got that. I saved it. Let's refresh. And if I hit submit, it should pop up. Now, you'd want to make it nice and do stuff like you wouldn't want it to say this page says. So you can change things like that, your titles. You can have it really nice. You can make this look really nice. Most companies don't usually use the JavaScript like that anymore. Do you know why? I'm not saying they don't do it. Some might still do it, but there's a lot of them don't. They'll take you to a separate web page, a separate thank you web page, maybe with your order summary and details. The reason a lot of them don't do these pop-ups is because most people disable pop-ups, right? Because you get so many pop-ups and stuff, spam, malware, all that kind of stuff coming up, so they'll disable it. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do this, but what I'm saying is if you do something like this, functionality-wise, and you can do this for the project, that's fine. In fact, I think I'm asking you to do it. You always want an alternative. So you can do this, and then also potentially you can check if pop-ups are disabled or things like that, then you should still go to the page. The safer option typically is go to a separate, another page. Thank you, all the same header information, you make it look the same, just thank you for your order summary, blah, blah, blah. Some of them will say confirmation number, things like that, all that kind of stuff. So, any questions on any of that? So that's 1 and that was 3. So all you have left then is number 2, right? We did 1 and 3. Apply. So those 3. So number 1-2 is the only one we didn't get to, and then pick your topic. Yeah, like I said, just whatever your idea is, it's fine. This again. So you're going to go into FileZilla, and you're going to want a similar structure in FileZilla. So Site Manager, I'm going to go on my site. I'll go to mine. Apollo. Yeah, so it's Apollo. What we did last week. So like I've got, and we're running out of time here. So I might, like in this case, what I might do is I might create a new folder here, or create a directory, JavaScript. Here, I'll say okay. Go under JavaScript. I'll go here. I'll create a new directory here, and I might say chapter 1, like that. You don't have to do it this way. This is just the way I'm suggesting. And then what you're going to do is you're going to upload it. And then I have to go here. I cheat. I do this. Copy this path. Go over here. Go to that path. And that takes me there. So I can then you can upload that. So the idea is you're going to send me the links on your site of where they're located, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to upload all this stuff. So you'll upload hands-on project 1, 2, 3. You can upload all that to chapter 1. Now look, if I go in chapter 1, I've got them all there. There it is. So I could go and I could go to all that. So I could go, I know we're at the end here. I go to my website. If I can find my website, I forget where it is now. I'm all over the place. Is this one? Yeah, and then I could do what? I could go to JavaScript. And then I could go to chapter 1. Notice now I have it set up so I can just look at the directories. I can go to chapter 1. I go to hands-on project 1, and then there it is. So you could do it that way. So, yep.